Hi, I'm Shaka Hislop, and you're here at Extra Time TV.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Extra Time TV. This is Andre Sooklal, and I'm not alone today. Replacing James for this matchup, for this discussion, it's Sandro Grande, who's a happy man after the Euros. We saw the videos. You're celebrating. Before we get into this game, Sandro, tell us about the celebrations.
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, for the people that don't know Montreal very well or Canada very well, I mean, there's Italian population is huge here. There was festivities going on in multiple parts of the city, especially in Montreal. Huge Italian community, and you know what? It was nice festivities. It was cool to see all the Italians get out. There was also non-Italians that were there, and it was all done peacefully, no issues at all. Just some fun, just some celebrating, and showing our colors and proud to be from Italian origin. So.
Yes, beautiful. It's good to see, some peaceful celebrations, unlike certain other teams. But Sandro and I are happy guys because Italy won and also Argentina won. So good times. So we're going to speak about the Gold Cup, folks. So any of you who have been following the Gold Cup, Canada is about to face off L3, Mexico, in their next matchup. We're down to the final four. Sandro, let's get straight into it. A lot of people outside maybe the Canadians didn't really speak about Canada. Now, we know they've been doing a lot of development in their football recently, a lot of new things, which you can explain to us. But a lot of people were talking about the USAs and the Mexicos and even the Costa Ricas. But they got a very impressive result against Costa Rica to get to this point. Tell us your initial thoughts on their performance so far and your expectations heading into this game.
Look, I mean, so far they've definitely represented our country very, very well on the pitch. It's a good group of young players with a little bit of a mix of some older guys. The staff was able to find some good pieces to bring in that were probably not going to play for Canada as a first choice, but we're able to be convinced and guys that are playing in Europe, and the MLS is helping us out tremendously as well with guys like Tejon Buchanan and Miller and there's quite a few guys that are playing in the MLS right now. So these are all things that are positive that are helping out the Canadian game. There's some of these Canadian players are also playing in American teams, which is kind of new. In a sense, and then we have the three Canadian teams that are they're also producing some decent players, and nowadays the opportunities are out there for the young generation to go to Europe or to play in the MLS or to play in the CPL in the Canadian League. So I think these are all coming together, and they're adding all the elements and helping us develop some new players, new generations that are going to be hopefully representing our flag for the next few years.
Yes, and for those who follow Concacaf football, and you can verify this information, in the early 2000s, Canada looked like they were on the upswing. They were there was a lot of investment in Canadian football. They seem to be playing a lot of high-profile friendlies, and then they sort of fell off for a bit. But it seems as if there's a resurgence. Do you think that and we'll get into the details of the tactics and so on afterwards. But do you think this performance directly correlates to the CPL and things like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot more showcases going on. There's a lot more universities, NCAA universities that are coming along and looking at our players. Let's not hide behind the fact that Jonathan David and Alphonso Davies have really opened up eyes. In the past there was Atiba Hudson, who's still playing at a very good level. There was Julian de Guzman, there was myself, there was Patrice Bernier, Ali Djerba, Ian Hume, Thomas Radzinski, and many other guys that were playing in Europe. The reality is that when we played in Europe, there was a lot less coverage, a lot less noise from the media in Canada. And I think with the fact that Alphonso Davies going to Bayern Munich and Jonathan David winning the French league this year, Champions League for Davies last year. This is all kind of like a little bit of a wave that's coming along that the media is now like, okay, I think we need to start paying attention to this because this is starting to be something pretty big. And like you said, the CPL came in at the right time a couple of years ago. And, it's working on a lot of young players, a lot of young Canadian players. And finally, these young Canadian players at 18 years old are not just looking at, okay, well, let me find myself a job and quit soccer altogether. I mean, now there are opportunities, the money that to make in a CPL or USL is probably not the greatest, but at least it's giving them opportunities and it's giving them a chance to maybe develop from the age of 18 to 23. And then obviously, if they're able to move on and go on to bigger and better things, that helps, And now in the CPL, we're seeing more and more Vancouver Whitecaps, Montreal Impact, and Toronto FC academy players that are getting loaned out, which is another great thing because the reality is that, clubs like TFC and Montreal Impact are first division, are Premier League teams. And it's not always easy for a 17-year-old from the academy to just jump into a Premier League team. And what happens in Europe? Well, the kids that don't jump into the first team end up going on loan to a second, a third, and maybe even a fourth division and have a little bit of time to develop. And I think that's what's going on right now. And look, I could only see it getting better and better because CPL is going to be adding teams, hopefully in the near future. And there's going to be more and more opportunities for kids from Canada, and I think there's more and more scouts coming along and having a look at us. So.
Yep, and also, the Canadian Resurgence has awarded some of our locals in Trinidad and Tobago, Stephen Hart, who you know as well, a former national coach who also coached Canada as well, and, some of our players and Halifax Wanderers. So it's benefiting us as well. So, let's just talk about the last game. A lot of people were talking about Costa Rica. They are a strong team in the Concacaf region. They have very strong players. But, Canada got a very impressive 2-0 result against them. And, they played an interesting formation. But, tell us, tactically, throughout this tournament, what you've observed about Canada and what do you think in the context of this tournament that has really made Canada really make a deep run in this tournament?
Look, I enjoyed their game against Costa Rica. I think they dominated. I think if you look at the stats and it says 55% possession for Costa Rica at the end of the game, it's probably due to the fact that after their 2-0 lead, they start to sit back a little bit. But for most of the game, they played a very good football game. Unlike the past, where sometimes Canada would go into these types of games and just think about defending first. Canada against Costa Rica did very well. I thought they were the better squad on the night. Costa Rica seemed like they're turning the page on a generation or two generations even. I found a team that wasn't as sharp, as technically dominant as they used to be in the past. And Canada took full advantage, and you could see that, Tejan Buchanan coming in, giving us a lot of energy on one flank, able to beat guys in 1v1 situations. Then you have guys like Junior Hoylett that plays in England for many years, who's able to make a difference, and Jonathan Osorio, who's been one of the top players in Toronto FC for the past few years. All these things coming together, they played very, very well, and they played in a 3-4-2-1. Hoylett and Osorio right behind Cavallini created some issues for Costa Rica. They had a hard time tracking, and in fact, the first goal comes from Hoylett on a blind side run from a great ball from Eustachio over the top, and their positioning, Hoylett and Osorio's positioning. On the inside of the pitch, just in behind Cavallini, was creating some problems for Costa Rica. And like I said, I mean, they played out of the back. They weren't only defending. It wasn't a direct football. It was a nice, patient football, and I think they totally deserve to win. and they're showing that maybe it's time that they take Costa Rica's place as a third nation in Concacaf.
You're right. That's the right way to phrase it, because usually when people speak about CONCACAF, it's always Mexico, it's always USA, and usually in recent times it's Costa Rica. But this is a pleasant surprise. Obviously Mexico, they started off the tournament with a draw against, my country, Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of people are saying, they were obviously, based on previous records, it's not far-fetched that they're one of the favorites, along with USA, the US men's national team. Tata Martino, the Argentine coach, who took over in Mexico, has a very particular style he plays, influenced by, Marcelo Bielsa, that high-pressing style of football. And yes, they did not have, the fiery start that people expected. But they're here now. This is going to be, I guess, a real challenge for the Canadian national team. So we know Tata Martino likes that, that 4-2-3 formation. He likes to press when not in possession. They have Mori, who is the Argentine, naturalized Argentine, who's now Mexican, sorry. So heading into this game, this is no doubt a massive game for Canada. How do you think Canada and the coach is going to approach a Mexico team that is very confident, even though they haven't had the greatest start, but they're getting the results? How do you think they're going to approach this game?
Look, for one, I think, they didn't have the greatest start against Trinidad or whatever, but I saw last game against Honduras, and they came out firing the whole first half. It could have been, it was 3 at the end of the half, if I'm not mistaken, and it could have been easily 4 or 5, and maybe even 6. Look, the Mexicans, we're not going to hide behind anything. I mean, we need to be honest here. They're constantly top 20 in the world, sometimes even top 15 consistently. When they go to the World Cup and when they play on the world stage, they are a force to be reckoned with. I'm Italian, so obviously I follow most of the Italian games, and when they've played against Italy at the World Cup, they've always given Italy a hard time. They at the Olympics right now, they're off to the next round as well, playing great football. It's a football nation. It's definitely, I would say, the top football nation in our region. Canada's going to have to treat this game, I think, in blocks. And I think the first 10 minutes playing in Houston, we know it's going to be a Mexican crowd. We know it's going to be full. And I highly doubt there's going to be any Canadians or hardly any Canadians in that stadium. Or even if there are, it's going to be hard to hear them. Yeah. So it's going to be a real away game. And you know what? This is probably a good game for Canada to have going into World Cup qualifying in the fall. Obviously everybody wants Canada to win and get through to the next round. But this is going to be a good stepping stone to say, you know what, this is what we're going to face in the fall. And we're not going to face them in Houston in the fall. We're probably going to face them in Azteca, which is going to be a lot more difficult. So this is a good training game for Canada. Like I said, they're going to have to treat it in blocks of maybe 10, 15 minutes. But the first 10, 15 minutes, they're going to have to be very disciplined defensively. They're going to have to weather the storm, because I think it's going to come very, very quick. And what tends to happen in these types of games is that after 10, 15 minutes, if you're able to hold them off, it kind of slows down to a pace that you're able to manage. And seeing Canada play with quite good spells of possession in the recent games, I'm hoping they're going to be able to weather the storm, and then after the 10, 15 minutes, be able at least to keep the ball a little bit so they can breathe and slow down the game and play at their own pace. Because if they start playing at the pace of the Mexicans, we all know, whoever's seen them, I mean, Honduras was trying to just keep up with them in the first half, and Mexico just kept on coming and coming and coming and coming, and very tricky players, very quick players. But if Canada is able to keep that score at 0-0 after the first 15 minutes, and then get some decent spells of possession, anything can happen. Anything can happen. And it's not anything new that once things don't start going well for some South American teams, Central American teams, sometimes the crowd starts to turn against them, and that could play into Canada's hands, and maybe they can gain a little bit of advantage and a bit of how do you say, a bit of confidence.
Yes, and maybe they can take a page out of the Trinidad and Tobago's book where they don't necessarily have to park the bus. But I mean, it seems as if with Tata Martino's team, if you looked at him when he coached Argentina, and I guess to a lesser extent Atlanta United, you know exactly what he's going to come with. There's not going to be much variation. He's going to have that 4-3-3. He's going to high press. So in terms of maybe shutting things out, closing down some passing lanes, it may frustrate them. And we've seen. It's not impossible to shut them down. I don't want to say shut them down completely because, to be fair, in the Trinidad and Tobago game, I'm saying this. I know a lot of Trinidad and Tobago people may not like me for saying this, but while we did get the shutout, there was also an element of luck there. There were a couple of calls that could have gone in their favor, and they got at some shots that the goalkeeper was just in majestic form. Do you think that? Based on what you said there, because you broke it down pretty nicely, do you think that Mexico will come with anything differently from what I just discussed just now, or it's going to be more of the same from Tata Martino?
Look, I think Tata Martino, having worked in some of the biggest clubs, having worked at Barcelona, I think the mentality, being hired at Barcelona, one of the mentalities is we don't change our style of play for anybody. And, inheriting the Mexican national team, I think they have a clear way of playing. They have a clear philosophy, and I think when you go in as a Mexico, you need to worry about Mexico. You don't need to worry about what Canada does or what some of the other teams do. You got to look at a couple of their tendencies, tactical, shape, tactical tendencies. But in the end, Mexico's got to worry about their own thing. Because if I'm Tata Martino, I'm saying to myself, if we play the best game we can play with our principles, I think we're going to be able to beat anybody in this region. So, Canada's going to be missing Lucas Cavallini, who could have really helped them. And in those moments where you're defending and then you just got to play the ball into a big striker's body for him to hold it up for you, maybe get a foul and just walk up the field 10, 15, 20 yards up the field, and slowing down the game, he could have helped them. Coming in for him is probably going to be Tesho Akindele, who's not quite like Lucas Cavallini. He's a little bit more quick and running into spaces. So hopefully he's able to to hold up a few balls and make his team push up the field a little bit. At the back, they're going to be missing a big piece in Victoria, who's going to be missing, and Daniel Henry is going to be coming in. So that's going to be a big piece in the back three, but they might end up going with a Sam Piet, who knows, with a Sam Piet and a Kai right in front of the back three, and then maybe have Eustachio and Osorio in front of them, and maybe Hoylett plays up top instead of Akindele. So these are all options that John Herman has. I'm sure they're looking at video. I'm sure they're looking at options they can come up with and adjusting during the game.
Yep, and one area that I've noticed over the years that can be exploited from Tata Martino is sometimes as the game goes along, the back four pushes up. There's a high line, and they are not exactly watertight. You can create some half chances from the counter attacks and hurt them with the high line. But let's talk about the form in the last 5 games. According to what I'm seeing here, it's 4 wins to Mexico and 1 draw. So, of course, the game is not played on paper, of course, folks. We know this. But, we're just taking a look at all these things. Mexico, obviously, as you said, there's not much to really analyze about Mexico. They're very straightforward. We know exactly how Martino plays. We know exactly how Mexico plays. They are a very proactive team. They stamp their style of play. So, in terms of key players in this game, I know we spoke about tactics, and generally you highlighted the players that may start. But who do you think will be the key player for Canada in this game?
For Canada, it's probably going to be, I want to say, Junior Hoylett, and I want to say Buchanan. We all know Buchanan can go forward, and he can be dangerous going forward. But I feel like in this game, if they play in the same back three with Buchanan on one side and Larrea on the other side and make it into a back five, Buchanan might be in some 1v1 situations that he's going to have a harder time dealing with, because obviously I think he has better qualities going forward than he has defending. Will they change their formation and put Buchanan a little bit higher up the field and put a right back in behind them? Maybe that's an option. So I think Buchanan and Hoylett, and then how does Daniel Henry replace Vittoria in the back three? And how does he manage his back three? We all know Vittoria is a very experienced player, so that's going to be a big piece that's going to be missing. And then if he does go with a Piet and a Kai sitting in front of their back line, they're going to have to always be there, covering, screening passes, doubling backwards, and just making it difficult for Funes Mori to get any balls into his feet, because he's really, really good, and in their midfield, in Mexican's midfield, Jonathan Dos Santos can be a very, very key player. Herrera's a top player. So, there's a lot of dangerous players on the Mexican side. Just hope, guys like Hoylett, guys like Buchanan, when we do break out, when we are able to go forward, hopefully they're able to have a little bit of success. And then who knows, if you get a couple of fouls up the field, maybe 30, 25 yards away from goal, if you can get a couple of balls into the box, maybe create some havoc that way. I mean, these are some of the things that Canada is going to be looking for sure.
Yes, and for you esports and FIFA guys out there, if you look in the background, we had our sim set up on the PS5, Mexico versus Canada, and apparently Mexico got the victory in a penalty shootout. So they took it all the way to the end in the game. That's just us having fun. We'll see how it goes if the sim is correct, because James and I, folks, we did that at the Euros, we did that at the Copa, and it was hit or miss. Some of the predictions on the game are right, some are wrong. For the Copa America, they said Brazil was going to win. Obviously, we saw how that turned out. But for the Euros, it predicted Italy was going to win. So this time around, we'll see if it's wrong, the third time. So, Sandro, this is the verdict time. I know I don't really like to do this when you do analysis, because as you know, true analysis, it's very hard to really just say, what you think the game is going to be. It seems like a sort of a difficult thing to do. But what do you think? How do you think this game is going to? Who do you think is going to win?
Look, honestly, my heart says, actually, you can see my jersey.
yes.
That I'm going to be wearing tomorrow night for sure. My heart says Canada, 100%. I know it's going to be an uphill battle. Canadians have fought through some difficult games in the past. And I think they're on a high. Their staff has done a good job, prepared them well. The program is on a high, and I only think there can only be positives coming out of their game versus Mexico. So I truly hope Canada is going to win. I am obviously realistic. With a couple of injuries and a couple of guys missing, it's not going to be an easy task. But I've seen Canada perform against all odds, and I think tomorrow night they're going to be able to do the same.
Yes, and basically my interpretation is, if kind of building on what you said, if Canada is able to hold off, the longer they hold off, once they don't concede an early goal, I think Canada would be able to frustrate Mexico. And as you said, the crowd turns on them, and I think the game, based on that, would go on to really stretch it out. But I think it all goes down to, and I'm kind of dancing on the fence here, which is kind of not good for an analyst. But, I think the longer Canada keeps Mexico from scoring, especially in the beginning, I think that increases their chances of coming away with a good result. However, based on the form guides, Mexico and their players and the coach, it seems as if it's in their favor. It seems like they're hitting, the right amount of form based on their last game. So logically, I think Mexico has the advantage, but as we both know, Sandro, I was going to call you James, Sandro, these games are never as simple as they appear. And, there's so many variables and match scenarios that can take place. A red card that can completely change the game, so I'm fanning the flames of not giving it fully in Mexico's favor. So on paper, it should be Mexico. But I think my theory is if Canada can keep Mexico from scoring an early goal, I think the game could swing in their favor. So I'm skillfully sitting on the fence, Sandro. You notice I never answered the question. So I'm hoping Canada wins for some variety and having someone else, get to the final for a change and, see someone new. But it looks, more than likely that Mexico will probably get a win. I think it's going to be a hard-fought victory, but I think Mexico is going to get it in the end, folks. So, folks, I'm off the fence now. So,
I think what's important is that Canada builds on this. So,
yes,
uses this as a stepping stone for the qualifying. I mean, yes, we all want to win the Gold Cup. All the Canadians are going to be watching tomorrow night. Everybody's going to be supporting their country, no doubt about it. Me first in line. But if I'm part of this, I say to myself, okay, what's more important are the World Cup qualifiers. Let's make this a positive game tomorrow night. Let's make this, a battle that we show them that we're not going to back down. And then, when we have all our squad in the fall, we know that when we play Mexico, now they're going to be doubting themselves, maybe, So that's the way I'm approaching this game. I'm going to use this game as a preparation for what's going on the World Cup qualifying, because we all know in Canada, technical staff and all coaches across the country, what we're missing is the World Cup qualifying to generate some income for our youth programs across the country. And if we're able to get that in the fall, in the new year, that's gonna give us a big boost as a soccer nation, and then we can start building something that's solid for the upcoming future.
Yes, I was going to ask you what this means for Canada, but I think you answered it perfectly. So I don't need to ask you that question, because this is, as people in the region, and obviously I'm from Trinidad and Tobago, it's good to see, Canada and, other countries really kind of leveling the playing field a little bit, because there were a lot of people complaining that were arguing, okay, it's going to be Mexico, it's going to be USA, boo-hoo, sleep. But, it's good to see some variety. And it's good to see that teams like Canada, are progressing. And I hope, not as you said, in addition to the this particular game and this tournament, that it means that they'll have a good run in qualifiers. And who knows? Get to the World Cup. Who knows? But we'll end things off there. So, folks, let us know what you think in the comment section below. Like, subscribe. Also, feel free to send in questions, your thoughts, suggestions, or what do you think about this game and the other games. We'll also have to speak about USA and Qatar. We'll probably have a discussion with Sandro, and James will return from his mystical journey. We'll tell you where James is in the next episode. So Sandro, it's been an absolute pleasure. Folks, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy is heavily involved in Canadian football, and also he has some love for the Italian football, which I do as well. So, lots of love from Extra Time TV. So Sandro, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully, after the game, if it goes positively, we'll do our reaction with you and we can hear your thoughts after the game.
Thank you for having me, and go Canada, go. And just wishing all the boys all the best, and make us proud. And hopefully we talk after the game and we all have at least I have smiles on my face.
Yes. Hopefully that joy from the Euros and, me with the Copa America rolls over into the Canadian national team. So, folks, once again, thank you for joining us. Let us know what you think about our analysis, your thoughts, who you think is going to win. If you think we're crazy, if we're not crazy, that's okay. Football is very, very, very subjective, and people could have different interpretations of the game. So, once again, this is Andre Sooklal of Extra Time TV, joined by Sandro Grande. Listen, I love that name. That could be like a musical name. Literally, that album cover written all over it. The many moods of Sandro. So, folks, thank you for joining us, and stay tuned for our post-match reaction.
Just a reminder, everyone, for more episodes with Shaka Hislop, be sure to head over to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more updates, interviews, and content.